January 6, 1944, 8th Air Force Headquarters, High Wycombe, England. Major General Jimmy Doolittle stood in the office of Major General William Kepner, commander of the 8th Fighter Command, when a sign above Kepner's desk caught his eye. Its message was stark. The first duty of 8th Air Force fighters is to bring the bombers back alive. Doolittle read it twice, then turned to Kepner. That sign must come down, he said calmly. It's wrong. Within hours, a new sign took its place. The first duty of 8th Air Force fighters is to destroy German fighters. This moment sparked a tactical revolution in World War II, a complete reversal of fighter doctrine that would shatter the Luftwaffe in weeks. What bomber crews called suicidal, what some commanders branded reckless, would prove the strategic masterstroke that won air supremacy over Europe. The mathematics of aerial warfare were about to be rewritten, not just by technology, but by one general's courage to abandon doctrine for results. The crisis had been brewing for months. On October 14, 1943, 291 American B-17 bombers launched a second raid on Schweinfurt, targeting ball-bearing plants critical to German war production. They hit their targets with devastating precision, but the cost was catastrophic. 60 bombers lost, 17 more damaged beyond repair, 600 men dead or missing in a single afternoon. Survival rates for bomber crews in 1942 and 1943 hovered between 25 and 35%, making a 25-mission tour statistically unlikely. Lieutenant Robert Morgan, pilot of the Memphis Belle, one of the few to complete a tour, wrote in his diary, "We are being slaughtered. The fighters turn back at the German border, and we fly on alone into hell. The forts protect themselves well, but it's not enough. We need fighters with us all the way, or we must stop flying." German fighters had perfected deadly tactics. They massed beyond the range of Allied escorts, then attacked in head-on passes at closing speeds over 600 miles per hour, giving gunners mere seconds to react. Armed with 30mm cannons and air-to-air rockets, a single hit could destroy a B-17. The problem was simple. American escort fighters, P-38s and P-47 Thunderbolts, lacked the range to reach distant targets like Schweinfurt, turning back 300 miles short. The bombers flew on alone, defenseless against German fighters attacking with impunity. In December 1943, General Henry Arnold, head of the U.S. Army Air Forces, issued an ultimatum. Unless the German Air Force is destroyed, Operation Overlord cannot proceed. American bombers cannot sustain these losses. Find a solution, or the strategic bombing campaign ends. The solution arrived in November 1943. The North American P-51 Mustang, powered by a Packard-built Rolls-Royce Merlin engine with 1,695 horsepower. The Mustang was a game-changer. With drop tanks, it could escort bombers 1,600 miles to any German target and back. Cruising at 437 miles per hour, it outran any German fighter. At 41,000 feet, its two-stage supercharged Merlin thrived where Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs faltered. Captain Chuck Yeager, flying P-51s with the 357th Fighter Group, wrote in his combat report, "The P-51 is faster, climbs better, and turns tighter than anything the Germans have. We can go anywhere the bombers go and fight when we get there. This changes everything." But range alone wasn't enough. Tactics would decide victory. Under the old doctrine, fighters stayed close to bomber streams, engaging German attackers briefly before returning to defensive positions. This let German pilots choose the time and place of attack, massing beyond visual range, striking at speed, and escaping before escorts could respond. Major General Ira Eaker, the outgoing 8th Air Force commander, had championed this defensive approach. A bomber pilot, Eaker believed bombers could protect themselves with interlocking machine gun fire, with fighters as a supplement. Doolittle, a fighter pilot, test pilot, and MIT-educated aeronautical engineer, saw it differently. His 1942 Tokyo raid, leading 16 B-25s from the USS Hornet, had earned him the Medal of Honor for its audacity. Now, commanding the 8th Air Force, he had Arnold's mandate to fix the fighter problem. On January 6, 1944, Doolittle issued his revolutionary order. Fighters were no longer to cling to bombers. They would range up to 50 miles ahead and 25 miles to either side, hunting German fighters proactively. After bombers turned for home, fighters would sweep low across Germany, strafing airfields, fuel depots, and trains. The goal wasn't just to protect bombers. It was to destroy the Luftwaffe entirely. The order shocked fighter pilots and terrified bomber crews. Colonel Don Blakeslee, commander of the 4th Fighter Group, embraced it. "This is what we've been asking for, freedom to hunt. We're no longer shepherds. We're wolves." But Lieutenant Colonel Jim Howard of the 354th Fighter Group captured the bomber crew's fears. "The men in the forts think we are abandoning them. They don't understand that killing German fighters before they reach the bombers is better than shooting them down after they attack." Bomber crews' fears weren't baseless. They had survived missions only because escorts stayed close, repelling attackers. Now, fighters would vanish over the horizon, leaving bombers seemingly defenseless. Many believed Doolittle's order was a death sentence from a general who didn't understand their war. For the Luftwaffe, the winter of 1943-44 seemed a path to victory. German fighter production had surged, with Messerschmitt and Focke-Wulf factories delivering over 1,000 fighters monthly. Major General Adolf Galland, Luftwaffe fighter commander, reported to Reichsmarshal Hermann Göring, "American bomber losses are unsustainable. If we maintain this pressure, they'll abandon daylight bombing by spring." But Galland missed a critical flaw: pilot attrition. Germany built fighters faster than the Allies could destroy them, but it couldn't replace experienced pilots. In 1943, the Luftwaffe lost nearly 3,000 fighter pilots. Training time for replacements dropped from 250 to 150 hours, producing pilots barely able to fly, let alone fight. Feldwebel Hans-Stammers, a Messerschmitt 109 pilot, wrote in January 1944, "New pilots last 3, maybe 4 missions. They can't dogfight or work with wingmen. We veterans must protect them while fighting the Americans. It's becoming impossible." The test came in February 1944 with Operation Argument, known as Big Week. General Karl Spaatz, commanding U.S. Strategic Air Forces in Europe, designed it as bait. Over 1,000 bombers from England and Italy, escorted by hundreds of fighters, struck German aircraft factories. The goal was to force the Luftwaffe into a decisive attrition battle. On February 20th, clear skies allowed the largest single-day air armada in history. Major Erich Hartmann, Germany's top ace with 352 victories, saw the American formations and understood. This is a fighter battle with bombers as the excuse. They want us to fight, and we have no choice. Over 900 German fighters scrambled. The skies over Germany erupted, contrails crisscrossing from sea level to 40,000 feet. American fighters, freed from defensive roles, hunted relentlessly. Lieutenant Urban Drew of the 361st Fighter Group caught Messerschmitt 262 jets taking off near Leipzig. Diving from 30,000 feet, he destroyed 2 before they could gain speed. His report became legendary. "The jets are deadly in the air, but they must take off and land. Catch them there, and they burn." Big Week's first day cost the Americans 21 bombers and 4 fighters, a fraction of Schweinfurt's losses. The Germans lost over 50 fighters and 38 pilots. Over 5 days, the Luftwaffe lost 350 fighters and nearly 100 pilots, most with years of experience. American losses, 226 bombers and 28 fighters, were sustainable, replaced within a month. Germany's losses were not. By March 1944, Doolittle's strategy showed results. On March 6, 730 bombers and 800 fighters struck Berlin. The Luftwaffe's maximum effort, 150 fighters, resulted in 160 aircraft destroyed and 70 pilots killed or wounded in a single day. By May, the Luftwaffe was a shadow of itself. On May 8, 900 bombers and 750 fighters attacked German targets without a single Luftwaffe fighter intercepting. General Galland reported to Göring, "The fighter force is destroyed. We have aircraft but no fuel. We have pilots, but most cannot fight effectively. The Americans attack at will." By June 6, 1944, D-Day, Allied air forces flew over 14,000 sorties, while the Luftwaffe managed fewer than 300. Allied ground forces operated without fear of air attack, a direct result of Doolittle's tactics. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel wrote, "The enemy has complete air superiority. Our troops cannot move in daylight. Without air cover, we cannot hold the beaches." Between January and June 1944, the Luftwaffe lost over 2,500 fighter pilots, 75% of its January strength. American losses, though heavy, 420 fighter pilots, 7,000 bomber crew, were sustainable. The kill ratio shifted from 20 to 1 in Germany's favor in October 1943 to 4 to 1 in America's favor by May 1944. German pilot training fell to under 100 hours, while American pilots received over 450 hours. The P-51 superiority, combined with aggressive tactics, overwhelmed the Luftwaffe. Doolittle's directive reshaped air warfare. Fighters became the primary weapon for air superiority, with bombers as bait. This doctrine influenced the Korean War, Vietnam, and beyond. The human cost was immense. Over 26,000 American airmen died in Europe in 1944, but it ensured the Normandy invasion's success. For the Luftwaffe, the loss of experienced pilots was catastrophic. Major Erich Hartmann reflected post-war. The Americans destroyed the Jagdwaffe in 1944. They had better aircraft, better pilots, and superior tactics. Doolittle's strategy was brilliant. It cost us everything. The sign Doolittle ordered change now resides in the National Museum of the United States Air Force, alongside its replacement. They symbolize a tactical revolution that won air supremacy. Bomber crews, initially fearful, came to see the wisdom. Technical Sergeant Andy Rooney, a reporter who flew missions, wrote in June 1944, "The fighter pilots saved us by leaving us. When they hunted, the Germans couldn't reach us. The best defense was a good offense." Doolittle was right. General Eisenhower summed it up. Doolittle's fighter tactics destroyed the Luftwaffe when destruction was essential. History will judge this as a decisive campaign. The story of a sign changed on January 6, 1944, is the story of a general who understood that fighters win wars by attacking, not defending, a truth that remains the foundation of air combat doctrine today.